Welcome to the St. Louis Writers Group and the Scripteasers group from San Diego. This is exciting to have a joint meeting, and we look forward to hearing three plays this evening, two from San Diego and one from St. Louis.
The Blind Hem, a short play by Bryn McLaughlin. The definition of a blind hem: to bind two separate pieces of fabric in such a way that the thread which connects them cannot be seen. Characters: Robert, male, a college English professor, haunted and seeking refuge, however temporary, late 30s, played by
Brad Kinzel.
Kate, female, Robert's student, has an inclination towards childish delight, stronger than she may appear, early 20s, played by
Annie Valeska.
Setting: a cheap motel room sometime in the night. The lighting is dreamy, the greens and blues of nights intermix with the angular amber light of the bathroom. A dream world. Perhaps Robert and Kate are actually dreaming all of this, who knows? Perhaps it is raining. Perhaps there are crickets outside. Perhaps there is a highway nearby. Who knows? Black, the sound of water running.
Hey, Robbie? Robert?
Water stops.
What was that?
Hey, could you get me a glass of water? Pretty please?
I can do that.
Water on again. Lights up on room. Bed, centre stage, door stage right, table and chairs upper stage right, with cheap wine in bags, clothes strewn about, bathroom stage left. The room is arranged so that we may view into the bathroom relatively well when the door, which faces us and opens inward away from the audience, is ajar. Kate lounges on the bed wearing cotton underwear and a slightly decadent bra. Short hair dishevelled. It is night. There is cool moonlight pouring in the window stage right, and the bathroom door is cracked, casting a warm yellow light into the room. Robert is in the restroom brushing his teeth. He fills a glass. Water off. Kate is thoroughly enjoying herself, lounging in the twisted covers, running her hands over the pillows and smiling. There is a glow about her. She sings gaily as Robert enters to deliver her water, toothbrush hanging out of his mouth. He's unshaven and wears a robe over boxer briefs, perhaps one sock. He has an air of being endlessly exhausted with the world. Kate may not be a great singer, but her enthusiasm is charming.
Fish gotta swim, birds gotta fly. I've gotta love one man till I die.
Here.
Can't help loving that man of mine.
You are a lightweight.
I'm not even buzzed, you goose. Play with me.
No. We're done playing tonight.
But I'm having so much fun.
You are a child.
You love that about me.
I don't know what to do with you.
I know what you could...
No. Arms up.
Nope.
Kate. Hey now, come on. You need sleep.
I get sleep.
I need sleep. I have an early class tomorrow. Today. I can't be yawning my way through Dr. Faustus, can I? Arms up.
I don't know why you can't just sleep here.
You know that I'm a light sleeper.
How would I know that? You've never actually stayed over. Not once.
I'm telling you now.
We hardly had any time together. I didn't get out of rehearsal until 10.
Well, Mercutio should know his lines by next week, so we'll have more time then.
Next week?
Tomorrow is just a tough day for me. Midterms, I need to get ahead on grading. I put off mapping out the new Shakespeare unit for way too long.
I would make you coffee in the morning.
How about I see you on Friday?
Twice in 1 week?
Twice in 1 week.
I would love that.
Excellent. Arms up.
She does so, childishly enjoying the attention. She might continue humming. He carefully slides the shirt on, taking care to adjust it so the fit is correct. This ritual is familiar to them both, and he performs the actions tenderly with a very serious look on his face, as if he were trying to solve a complex puzzle.
I love this part.
Do you?
It's my favorite.
Your favorite?
He admires her for a moment, tucking her hair behind her ears, teasing.
Not any of the other stuff, then? You don't like any of that?
Oh, no, that too.
Do you really, though?
I do.
She does. She does. Just checking.
Yeah, it's just
Water on.
no one else ever does all.
What's that? Water's on.
Oh, nothing.
You sure?
Positive.
Robert finishes his teeth brushing, washing his face, while Kate looks off in his direction. She appears lost in thought. Finally,
Robert? Robbie. Can you hear me, Robert?
she gets up slowly, walks towards the bathroom, puts a hand on the wall that separates them, humming the same song to herself. She presses her cheek against the wall as if slow dancing with it. She speaks dreamily, with a kind of gentle sadness under the safety of the water sound.
I think I love you.
Robert stops.
I wonder sometimes when the water's running, if you really can't hear me, what I say to you. I wonder if it's your way of escaping. But that's okay, I think, if you need it. Sometimes I need it too. A safe haven. The only time I think either of us are truly honest with one another. When there's a wall between us.
She turns, leans her back against the wall, rests her head back. Robert goes to turn off the water, but thinks better of it. He listens.
I love you, Robert. Oh, how I do. And I want you to know how lonely it is to love someone from the other side of a door. I'm so sorry you're hurting, but I wish you'd let me in.
Water drips from his hair and face, but he steps closer to the door. It's as if he senses her closeness through the wall. He too reaches out to the door, wanting badly to caress it, but something's holding him back. They have no idea how close they are. Their hands are perfectly aligned.
Let me in, Robert.
Robert's hand clenches, pulls back. He shakes his head. He coughs, turns off the water, makes noise. Kate straightens up, prepares to smile, goes back to bed.
Do you need any more water?
You know me too well.
She quickly finishes the original glass.
Just a little, yes. Always so thirsty after, well...
Sex, Robert. I'm always thirsty after sex.
Yes.
He exits to the bathroom.
You can say it, hydration is an important issue. Did you know that most people are chronically dehydrated? They just don't realize it.
Robert re-enters.
So this is actually a very serious issue that we should be able to discuss freely. And sex is a dehydrating process. It takes a toll. So you're bringing it up, checking in. It touches me deeply to know that you consider my well-being. And sex is a crucial part of our relationship. So the subject ought to be out in the open. Don't blush. Go on.
You are a child.
Hey, babe, have you noticed?
Ugh.
Babe, you're always so thirsty after.
All right. I get it.
After we have sex, after I pounded your brains out, screwed, fucked, made love.
No.
No?
No.
Okay. No, making love then. Not for us.
Kate drinks the water.
So I hear you're dropping Romeo and Juliet this year for 101?
Yes. Shifting the syllabus slightly.
Thought you hated Hamlet.
Hate, as they say, is a strong word.
Yeah, okay. Strongly dislike.
I don't dislike it at all. There are just structural issues. Students have a hard time connecting to the plot when their favorite character disappears for an entire act. Change is good, though, as good as a rest, they also say.
Some change is really good.
Some change, indeed.
Do you ever think we might You know,
I absolutely do not.
you don't even know what I was going to say.
I have an inkling.
Oh, yeah.
You were going to ask about going public. The answer is no, as always.
Well, all right then. Yeah.
Not all change is good. The syllabus changes, you and I do not. It's just not a good idea. Not yet, at least.
He kisses her on the forehead.
Okay. Whatever makes you happy, Robert.
Thank you. Students don't take in anything from the Shakespeare units anyway. Not in 101. It's a crapshoot.
He ties his shoe.
Here, you tie funny.
She kneels, ties his laces for him. He reclines a bit, pets her.
Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou Romeo?
Wherefore, indeed.
People think that means where are you, Romeo? But they're wrong. She's asking why.
That's correct.
I know.
Not impressive, but correct.
Do you ever stop being a professor?
There's more going on in there. Go on. What's translation without interpretation?
I hate you.
Use it.
Ugh, hold on. Well, you're right. It's basic trivia nowadays, but I still find myself thinking about it. Students, they learn the difference, where versus why, and they're like, oh, that's cool. There's an easy extra point on a test. There's something I can bring up at a party and I can sound like I know something. Yeah, I took 101. I learned this one thing. Look at me. Other foot.
This is not very validating to hear as the man who teaches that class.
Cool your jets. This is going somewhere. Oh, man, your sock is fucked.
Smacks him with a worn sock.
Buy new ones already.
You were saying
Yeah,
you think about it.
I think about it. I think about it. It changes the meaning entirely. It changes the way we perceive Juliet's entire thought process. It's not just trivia. So we meet Juliet, one of the title characters. She's one of the most well-known literary characters out there, and she doesn't fucking talk. Not a fucking word.
There are a few words in there.
Well, yeah, she says a few things, but the point is she's on stage and everybody in her life doesn't shut up. Nobody lets her make decisions for herself. And then her most famous line, Romeo, Romeo, wherefore art thou Romeo? Everybody fucking misinterprets. It's brutal. But yeah, I think people write her off too easily. She's no Hamlet, maybe, but she makes her own fucking decisions and she thinks. Wherefore? Why? Why this extraordinary boy, the boy who she loves, who she is fated to love, why he has to be Romeo? Because she knows deep down that it can never be. They say that characters in a tragedy are somehow aware of their own ultimate demise, and they spend the entire story trying to avoid it. But they know. They all know they're going to lose in the end.
She smacks his shoe lightly.
There.
Thank you.
Wherefore art thou Romeo? It's tragic, really, that one line. She says his name out loud, and that's it for her. That's the decision. She said his name was too good, and it sealed her fate. She fell in love. That's what's going on in there.
Color me impressed.
She helps him put on his belt.
See, I did learn something in your class.
Top of your class.
You're damn right.
The brightest student I ever had the privilege of teaching.
It helps that I couldn't take my eyes off the instructor.
He smiles, stands, crosses to his bag. She fidgets a bit.
You know, I rather enjoyed R&J. I think it's a great choice for a freshman course.
Yes, well, as I said, it's tired. I'm worn of it. It was time for a change. Every few years, the board, they like to see...
It's because of Emily, isn't it? I know it was her favorite. I shouldn't have asked.
You most certainly should not have. I'm sorry. I'm just... Ugh. You know?
Yeah. It'll be a year tomorrow, won't it? Today?
Today? Today. Yes, I suppose it is. 1 year. You have a frighteningly good memory.
I'm so sorry. I don't even know what happened to her.
It's fine.
Robert continues dressing, cleaning up. Kate sits on the bed, watches him.
I wish you weren't sad.
Robert continues cleaning.
You don't deserve to be so sad, Robert.
Don't I, though?
He picks up his wedding ring, places it on his finger. She goes to him.
What can I do?
Nothing.
I can make you feel good.
No, Kate.
I can make you happy, Robert.
No, you cannot.
That's terrible.
He grabs her chin, forcing eye contact.
Kate, you're on your track. I am on mine. Our paths intersect where they do, no more, no less. But our tracks continue on. You stay on yours, I stay on mine. I cannot make myself more clear. Do you understand me? Kate, do you understand?
Yes.
Kate?
Sir, yes, sir.
Hey, I need to make sure that this is okay, you and me, this arrangement.
Arrangement?
What else would you call it? Kate?
Stop.
Kate?
Stop it.
Stop what?
Stop saying my name like that.
Like what?
I don't know. Fuck. I don't know. I
Kate?
have to.
She exits to the bathroom. Water on. Kate splashes water onto her face, looks at herself in the mirror, shakes her head. Robert has turned to the bathroom, staring off into the slightly closed door. He steps towards it, stops in the middle of the room, toys with his wedding ring.
Kate? Can you hear me? God. This is exactly what Emily would have done. Seek out the other side of some proverbial wall and wait for me to do the talking.
Kate looks into the mirror. Robert sits on the bed.
Kate, I am a sad old man. I cannot for the life of me fathom why someone like you wants so desperately to love me.
Kate turns to the door, listening intently.
You remind me of her, Emily. She was also full of light, full of love. I fell so quickly for her. We were so goddamn young, Kate. So young. She wasn't healthy, though. The highs were so high, but the lows, I would hold her. It was like sand falling out of my arms, trickling between my fingers. I wanted her to get help, but she wouldn't have it. She wanted me, only me. I couldn't do it. Long nights, endless nights. I was a coward. I am a coward. I shouldn't have left her. Not when I was the only thing holding her up. I knew she was going to do something drastic. I knew it. And I left her anyway. You wanted to know what happened. This is it. I held her. This is what happens to the things I hold. I am content with this loneliness, the emptiness that I have, because I deserve no less. I have earned the right to it. This hole in my chest, this cold space that lives next to me, always in the bed that she and I once shared.
Robert stands, crosses to the bathroom.
Kate, if I told you plainly that I will never fully love you, I will touch you, I will care for you, I may even someday reach out to hold you, but I will never love you. If I told you that, would you still come back to me? Night after night, in the dark, where no one else can see?
Kate is leaning fully against the wall between her and Robert, arms wrapped tightly around herself, head tilted against the door.
Yes.
Robert stares in awe, as if he could see her, as if there was no wall between them. He reaches out to the space where she is. This time, he does not resist the urge to touch the wall, touch her. Just before he makes contact, Kate steps away and turns off the faucet. Robert stops and then pulls away. She wipes her eyes, shakes her head. She smiles, waves her arms around as if preparing for a grand performance. She begins humming gaily and enters.
You'd think a place like this would have some face wash, don't they usually? The hand soap dries out my skin.
I believe they have lotion.
Yeah, I'll try that.
Kate, your eyes are red.
Yeah, that shitty soap got in my eyes. Stings like a mother.
The soap?
Kate wipes her eyes, shakes her head, grins.
I know what we can do
What?
to get you all jazzed again. Your aura is cloudy.
Yes.
With a gleeful squeal, Kate leaps onto the bed on her knees and extends her arms out.
Tickle me!
Robert smiles, laughs a bit. He laughs more, rubbing his face in relief, always astounded by the girl's delightful tendencies.
I can't tickle you. It won't work. You know that it's coming.
No, I don't.
She squeezes her eyes defiantly shut like a child, turning her face towards the ceiling.
Don't think about it, Robert. Not anymore, not tonight. Let's let go. Just a little while longer.
Robert takes a moment. He steps towards her, and she scrunches her face in delight as she anticipates his touch. He pokes at her ribs, causing her to jerk away and giggle, but she does not surrender her vulnerable position. He laughs and tickles her belly, which causes more laughter from her. Robert now smiles with complete abandon if his sorrows have never touched him, is joyous and finally gives us an explanation to the chemistry between the two. He throws her over his shoulder, spins around, both laughing and screaming wildly. He sets her back on the edge of the bed. His smile fades a bit, his hands upon her stomach. It looks as if he wants to kiss her. He leans in, breathes lightly into her face so close. He removes his wedding ring. Kate sings.
Come home late as can be. Home without him ain't no home to me. Can't help loving that man of mine.
Blackout. End of play.
I thank you, actors, and thank you, playwright. Fantastic job. Well done. At this time, we'll begin our discussion. And as an audience member, you are welcome at this time to put your camera back on so we can see you. Ordinarily, if we were in a live setting, we would ask you to raise your hand so we can take turns to talk. However, I find on this Zoom format that that's very difficult. So let's try instead, just go ahead and make your comment, turn your mic on when you have something to say, and just try your best not to interrupt another speaker. We'll go through the rules real quick. Please don't interrupt another speaker if at all possible. Make sure that your comments are all made in a professional and courteous manner, please. And you cannot ask the playwright a direct question. We're going to give the playwright the last word. So during the discussion, the playwright cannot speak. Instead, she is encouraged to listen to all comments without trying to answer questions or defend the script. While that's difficult, experience has proven that it's the most effective way for the writer to hear all points of view, and we will give Bryn the final word. So the first question is, off the top of your head, what is a word or a phrase with your immediate reaction, such as it needs more work, it's interesting characters, it's touching? What do you have to say about Bryn's play?
Touching.
Poetic.
Poetic, poignant.
Mm-hmm.
Disturbing.
Disturbing, okay. Any other first comments?
Lovely.
Pinteresque.
Okay. Very good.
Fantastic.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Fantastic.
Fantastic. That's a vote of confidence. Good. All right, let's move on to the author's premise. Is the premise clear and is it effectively developed?
Yeah,
think so. At least the premise of what I can see. I can see under some circumstances that you've got older man, younger woman who's his student or former student. It could be very creepy and, you know, not good. He's taking advantage of her, except there is this big weight of tragedy with him that's in it. And I don't know, that just seems to work very well with this situation when you come to terms with the character and why they got the relationship. So I think that seems to make it all the difference, instead of it being just a, you know, cliched, very younger student with an older man. And there's more to it than that. So yeah, that's mine.
I didn't quite see the connection with Romeo and Juliet. Was there supposed to be some sort of parallel there? Does anybody have an answer to that?
Well, I think the point is that, like all the Shakespearean characters, we can see the inevitable sad conclusion of the things that we do, and yet we go forward with them anyway. So here the professor is saying this is all going to end badly. Well, will I see you next week? So he's doing the same thing that the Shakespearean characters are doing. Juliet is doing, going down the road that only ends at one place.
To me, I think she's trying to change a tragedy into something different. You know, maybe get the romance going and keep that going. So I see that it's kind of like because she understands Romeo and Juliet very well. We get that from her, you know, and in her lines and her dialogue. And I think that she's trying to change. There might be a little bit of codependency here too. I don't know in the character and the way that she's coming at things, but I think she's trying to flip the script a bit to maybe bring a happy ending out of tragedy.
Plus, there was that that parallel where they're on two sides of the wall and they're communicating. I thought there was one point when they were both, you know, every Romeo and Juliet I've ever seen, there's a point when they're they put their hands together like that. And so that's the fact that they were both like against the wall with, you know, that also is a very Romeo and Juliet thing to me. It conjures that to me. So
very much. Yeah, it's like the let lips do what hands do.
Right,
That's
exactly. Exactly. That's
line.
it.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
The most poignant line in the play for me was the only time I think we're completely honest, when the water's running and they're speaking to each other through the door. I find that intriguing. Anything else about the premise? All right, those are fantastic comments. We'll go on to the characters. Are the characters clearly defined and developed? Are they believable? And is there sufficient contrast among them?
I think so. I think they're definitely different. I think they speak from their own experience, age, and the different power structures that are going on there in an attempt to also be lovers in a way too. So I think there's a lot of different levels on this. I think I'll save my other stuff because we get to dialogue later, and there's something I wanted to say there.
Right.
I found Kate to be a little bit of the drunkard's dream. You know, no matter how horrible I am, she loves me for that. And I would like to see her be a little more well-developed, a little less generic.
I thought actually, oh, I'm sorry. I thought there actually was quite a distinction between the two, because he's the person who doesn't want to commit and she's the one who really wants commitment. So it's a typical love story.
I think we learn more about him than we do about her. And perhaps we need to learn a little bit more about her and where she's coming from. But I do like the way it's revealed in bits and pieces. There's no like big reveal in a big long paragraph of monologue. It's pieced in there, and about the Emily and about you know, the fact that he's her professor, and those things come out throughout in a way that just seems organic. But again, less about her we know, I think, unless I missed something.
All right, sounds good. We can move on then to dialogue. This is Mark. Was that you that wanted to say something about the dialogue?
Yeah, it was actually not even the dialogue. It's the narrative. There's so much poetry in the stage direction for this. It was really beautifully written. It read like prose, you know, almost like a story or a novel. So I think there's a lot for actors to work with there. In addition to the dialogue, I think it really gives a lot of atmosphere for the actors to work with. So I think it helps the dialogue. I think the dialogue was made sense. I didn't have any issues with it, honestly. But I do think that the narrative, having that the audience isn't, except in something like this, isn't going to be able to see that. But that's a gift, getting that from the writer for the actors to be able to add and nuance their performance.
Good point. And Dave's lovely voice adds to the poetry of the.
Right. Yeah.
And, you know, I didn't really read the entire question here. I should read what's officially the question for dialogue is, are the dialogue and use of language effective? Is it realistic? And did you hear any trite words or phrases? So with all of those things in mind, are there other comments about the dialogue? Grant?
As I said, I described it as Pender-esque, which means I like the dialogue. But I do think that the phrase a crapshoot was misused. It isn't a bad crapshoot isn't a bad result. It's an indeterminate result. So I don't think it belongs there.
Good. Other thoughts about dialogue?
I think it flowed really nicely. I personally was sort of hanging on every word.
Well, that's certainly a compliment. And what, you know, and what the playwright is looking to achieve. All right, well, we'll move on to the dramatic effect. Is the opening too slow or fast? Is the play too long or short? Is the denouement or final resolution effective? And does the script hold your interest?
Sure.
I like the use of
Okay.
I like the use of water, because water usually means change, and it seems to me that the professor guy is internally going through some kind of a change. I'm not really sure the way it ends, but you know that he's going through some kind of a change.
Good. Mark, you had something to say as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'll add to what Shirley just said about water. Water also represents our emotions. And so to me, there's a lot that can come through that of some of his healing process or change that he's going through and having emotional moments as a parallel with the water. But as far as holding my interest, yes, it held my interest very much. I was very interested in the characters. I wanted to see where it was going to go and whether they were going to be able to come together.
Yeah, we're all seeing different things in water. I see life and cleansing in the water. That's what I see. And yeah, it kept my interest. And I think like Grant, it was like, what is wrong with this guy? This woman is here. She's like throwing herself practically at him, and he's like rejecting. So I liked it because there was some unpredictability about it. It wasn't the classic. Someone mentioned this already, and I really do like the things that we weren't able to see. The wall, the use of the wall. They're talking on either side of the wall, and the sound effects of the water, and all that we can't get in a Zoom reading. I think when you put all that together, it really can be very effective. And it was beautifully read, and from narration on up, really. Yeah.
I think for dramatic effect, you know, there's a lot in this for actors to work with, and there's also a lot for like set designers and everything and lighting to work with, you know, to really enhance, you know, the dramatic effect of everything. So there's a lot of good stuff in there that can be, you know, utilized.
Yes, Carm. Carm, turn your mic back on so we can hear you.
The one thing I found kind of jarring was the reveal that it was the anniversary of his wife's death. She seemed to bring it up first, and it just was jarring. It somehow, I felt like I had taken aback by that. I don't know what he was doing there if he was in such grief. I guess maybe that's the way I thought about it.
I suppose it struck me a little the same way. Again, I just want to encourage you, if you have a comment, go ahead and speak up. On my screen, as I look at it, there's 2 pages back and forth, but I really only see the people on screen 1 that are making comments. So if you have something to say, go ahead and speak up. Dave, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I'm not sure where this fits in with the questions, but it strikes me that a director, depending on what type of director you get, could take this in one of several ways. He could play Brad's male character as being an absolute rat, taking care of a student, sorry, not taking care, taking advantage of a student who frankly could seem a bit dim. Or he could direct it, he or she, the director, could run it as people who are much more equal. Now, having been on the receiving end of directors who had a different idea of how the play should run, and when I first wrote it, I'd be interested to hear Bryn's thoughts at the end about how it should be directed. Because one thing I have realized, it's when the play goes over to a director, it's not really your play anymore.
Okay, and we'll get to Bryn very shortly. We have just a couple more questions left. The next question is, are there any staging or production problems?
I'd say that the water issue is kind of a challenging one because there's quite a bit of that imagery. Although, as Bradley brought up, you could do stuff with lighting. You could do stuff with projection, with water flowing or stuff like that, or something overlaying. There's a lot you can do with that and be creative. I think that could give some challenge there in the sound effects and stuff. But other than that, I think that this could be done in a black box basically and still be effective. I don't see any major staging issues at all.
Mm-hmm. And there are only 2 characters and only 1 set, so that makes it easy. Any other comments about staging or production? Then the last question is, before we let Bryn have the floor, is the script marketable as it is? Or what specific work would it need to make it marketable? Which is just a slight twist on the other things that we've talked about. We've kind of talked about, does the play work? Now we're going to talk about, can you sell this play? Can you perform it?
I think it could be sold. I think it could be performed as is. However, I'm with Susan. I would like to see a little bit more of Katie's development or her backstory of what brought her here. Why is she here? I mean, we kind of have a little bit of that, but we get more of where Bradley's character that he did, the teacher, we get more of that than we get, I think, from Katie's perspective in this particular play. And I think I'd like to see a little bit more development of that to make that be very effective.
I liked this play very much. I was really riveted by the interplay between the characters. But one thing that I would like to see is, why did the professor all of a sudden reveal what had happened to his wife? Was there something in the play that made him all of a sudden feel like he wanted to confide in the student? And so I think that kind of needs to be worked out a little bit.
I'd like some kind of explanation of why they're in a hotel. Obviously, he lives alone. I don't understand. Maybe half a sentence to clue me in.
I'm wondering if part of that is, first of all, he wants anonymity, and secondly, does his apartment conjure up this Emily, and he just wants to separate from his life. Basically, this is in a bubble. So this is just a generic hotel, doesn't have any, meaning other than just the two of them being there. The other thing about revealing the details about his ex, I wonder if it's just he needed to, he was troubled. He was clearly troubled, and maybe he felt like, again, between the wall, he can really open up. In face to face, maybe not. So there's that moment when he mentions it, and she doesn't know what he's not telling her about it until she's in the bathroom, and then he kind of gets it off his chest, like, yeah, this is what happened, and he's troubled by it because he feels a sense of guilt about what happened, and he's very down on himself. That's how I see it, anyway.
This was a fantastic discussion. And I think at this time we can turn it over to Bryn. Bryn, you have a few questions that were posed, and just give us your take on the play and tonight's reading, please.
Yeah. So I started writing this in college, which would have been, I think it was 6 years ago that I started writing it. And at the time, I was just trying to find a way to sort of encapsulate the feeling of loving someone and not being able to get that back, and you don't know what the barrier is. So when I wrote it, it was very much from the point of view of Kate, and then from there I had to slowly build up Robert. And I think what's interesting about that is that over time I've had to focus so much on making Robert three-dimensional and giving him backstory and all of that, that I think Kate has become a secondary character, which is very interesting. Because when we did this in the last workshop, I think the question that really struck me was someone asked, why does Kate love Robert? Aside from him just being an older figure who, had, I don't know, that it wasn't clear enough to them. And I think there's still there's a power dynamic between them that I think my struggle is that I don't know where it's okay for me as the playwright to leave things in the open air and let that be the job of the director and the actors to sort out. Because in that way, I think a script is more malleable. And all of my favorite playwrights do that. I think a lot of contemporary theater, the playwrights overwrite so that there are no questions left to be asked, and in many ways the play can only ever be done exactly the same way every single time. But when you leave some of those things open to interpretation, I mean, it's scary because your play is going to be performed terribly, like a lot. But I think that means it's going to be all the more powerful when the actors can mine for that truth, and when they can spot the questions that a lot of people have asked here, and solve them for themselves. So I just don't know, because I do think that there are some places where I just need to step back. But there are some things that I need to fix. I very much see Robert as Brick from Cat on a Hot Tin Roof, just a wall. I think it's okay if you don't understand why he does what he does for most of the play. And in my mind, the goal of the monologue and giving him that backstory is to just, if anything, tell you there are reasons why we don't understand him. We don't have to understand everything that's going on in his head. We just have to know that there is stuff going on. There's reasons why he does what he does. But I would like to flesh out Kate a little more. When I started writing, I had the mindset of a 10-minute play. I think I intended for this to be much shorter than it wound up, and then over time I just kept fleshing it out. And so now I'm trying to transition into thinking of it as closer to a one act, or I've even started just as an exercise trying to write a scene of them 3 years later, and I'm starting to realize that maybe it would be more appropriate to make it a full-length play where you get to see where they started and where they wound up. But right now it's just a really nice exercise for me, and it helps me understand them better. So yeah, I don't really know what else to say, are there any specific questions that I am not thinking of that I haven't answered?
I had the question about the direction, about how you would like to see it directed.
Yeah, and is that specifically about how to direct the actors playing the characters? Or, oh, are you talking about the sort of author's note that I have about the movement in the play?
No, it's how you, I mean, for example, you said a little bit about Robert. If a director decides to direct that character as being really quite nasty, how would you feel about that?
I think it could work, because I mean, I could see why someone would do that as long as it's with the understanding that his pain is what's making everything that he does come out that way, as opposed to he's just a generic asshole taking advantage of a younger student. And in fact, that was something that I try to do throughout. Is it's okay in my mind for them each to do ugly things to each other, as long as there is some admission immediately after that they've overstepped. So I've written in a couple of places where he does overstep his bounds, or he does get too harsh with her. And then I think that it's the one right before she disappears into the bathroom, where he really lays down the law with her. And in my mind, that is one of the reasons why he breaks and finally tells her about everything, like why he is the way that he is. I actually would like to have a little bit more of that with Kate. I think the real key to this is to find the things that make them even. So emphasize Robert's weaknesses and emphasize how sharp Kate is and the awareness that she has for the situation she's in. Make it very clear that she's aware of the toxicity of their situation, but she's choosing to be there for whatever reason. And I do think that that is something that I could embellish on, and I could continue to find ways to include that and explore that in the script. So that's just for me. Like, I would hope that a director would approach it that way, is just recognize these characters are designed to have a power dynamic issue, like just an awful one. So it's your job to find how to make Robert more likable and Kate more strong or feisty. That's what I would hope for. But I do look forward to writing a little bit more of that.
Well, Bryn, I hope that the comments that were made tonight are helpful, and we thank you again for bringing in a fantastic play.